This is the MindSkills session on developing your purpose. Dr. M has joined us as co-host, and he will be our first sort of guinea pig, if you will. The first person we will start with, and let me set the expectations and what we're doing here and why we're doing it. He and Samantha and some other people have been really pushing me very hard to do more workshops and on MindSkills, to not just write the book and then do it after I wrote the book, because the book could take a year, 5 years, 10 years, whatever. And they very cleverly and astutely urged me to start giving workshops, for want of a better term, and teach it. And the worst that could happen is we do one and it's lousy, and we do it again, get it better the next day. So there's no downside, aside from perhaps wasting some time. There's tremendous upside. And as Dr. M pointed out to me in a call last night, some of these chapters in the MindSkills playbook that I'm writing can be audio chapters. So this session might be an audio chapter. So if you come up and make a comment or whatever, we are recording. By doing so, you are formally giving me your legal permission to basically use this in any way I want. Blanket permission for any purpose whatsoever, commercial or otherwise, in whole or in part, the results of what you say. So if you are uncomfortable with that, by all means listen. Active listening is appreciated and encouraged. Send me DMs if you'd like. If you have any questions that you don't want to express yourself. But that's those are the ground rules. Now, what we're going to do is Dr. M has been, I will alternately call him Saman, which is his first name, or Dr. M. Most of you know him as Dr. M. I like to call people by their real first names, so I have a strong preference for calling him Saman. So I'll probably call him that. He has requested some training in helping other people to learn mind skills. So this has a double purpose. It's to demonstrate how all of you can get better in touch with your purpose, to develop your purpose. Purposes are not found, they're made. So how you're going to develop your purpose, and how you can help other people develop their purposes. It's sometimes easier to do it with another person, have somebody else do it with you. Although you can certainly do it yourself. I've done this with thousands of people. Sometimes you really get right to somebody's purpose. Sometimes you get to the direction they need to go to grow into their purpose, because they may not have it developed yet. Some people in their 60s and 70s don't quite have it developed yet. Other people, I've seen 10-year-olds who have it very clearly developed. In fact, I was one of those 10-year-olds who I knew exactly what I wanted to do when I was a young kid. So that's the dual purpose. We may get into interactive mode a little later. If any of you are attending to see a demonstration of my famous interactive mode, that may or may not happen today. So I hope not to disappoint you. That's not a main purpose. But I do want to do this and then get some people's reactions. And you will speak out of your own expertise, because you know what your reactions were. I don't. So I'm going to ask for people's reactions. When Saman was going through this exercise, what was occurring to you? What were your impressions of what he was saying and what I was doing? What did it trigger off in you? What can we learn from it? I'm going to ask people to be very pithy and terse. Pithy means rich and terse. So I'm going to ask you to not do a long discussion, although it would be perfectly fine to have it interactive and react to each other's comments. But I would love to find out how people are taking this, and is this useful? Did they get any insights or epiphanies or breakthroughs or whatever? Did they get put on a track? So I'm warning you all about all of this up front. Let me think if there's anything else that I didn't mention. If we do get into the interactive mode, I will play a little 2-minute tape excerpt. It used to be called tape, now recorded excerpt of my introducing the interactive mode for those of you who want to learn how to do it. That's kind of my formal way of doing it, so make sure that I don't miss any points. I see some people who have pointed out the difficulties of at least 3 people here have pointed out to me in other sessions or after other sessions or in DMs the difficulties that some females and people who from other cultures have with the interactive mode, for which I thank you, and you'll see the acknowledgement of that in the recording. I do address it explicitly in the recording, and I would love to get your feedback about, was I condescending? Was it the right level of whatevers? Do you have any other suggestions for how I could put it better? Because I'm not comfortable with that whole area. The focus groups that I used to do had very assertive people in them, and I never faced that issue. And the people who I, pointed this out were on themselves quite assertive, but they're mostly concerned about other people. Okay, Saman, did I miss anything?
No, I would just add to that that the demos that George has done previously in spaces that I've been witness to, I think, they were a level above what you would get if you read the mind skills. And so this is why we are appreciative that George is doing this directly with me, and I suppose by extension with everyone here. Because there is a lot to be gained above and beyond what's written in the mind skills. So thank you, George, for doing
and
this.
Thank you for sticking your neck out. We both don't know how this is going to go. I swear to all of you that this is completely unrehearsed. We did discuss a little bit about what topic we're going to do. We have a long list of possible topics, and we will be probably covering all of them eventually. But we said, okay, what are we going to start with? So we had a little discussion of what the topic was, but not what he was going to bring up within that topic. So when he starts talking, I'm going to be hearing this for the first time from him. Do want to point out that in the nest, and you get to those of you who are newcomers get to the nest by pulling your thumb down on the pictures, which exposes the nest. There are 2 tweets in the nest. One is the Otter transcript that we're making as we speak. If you follow that link, you will actually see the transcript of this session as we're talking, split seconds behind when we're talking. And later on, you can access it through that link. You can hear the recording, and you can even hear it at 1.5 times speed or whatever. Although why you'd want to hear me talk even faster than I usually talk, I have no idea. But most people want to listen. I only listen to audio recordings speeded up. I can't listen at normal speed anymore. A couple of words about the music. I've done probably 6,000 or 7,000 of the 10,000 focus groups I've done had that music, that opening music. So I play it for myself mostly to get my juices going. I hear that music. It is the La Gazza Ladra, The Thieving Magpie by Rossini. When I hear The Thieving Magpie, my juices start flowing. I go into performance mode. I wake up if I'm a little tired, and I'm raring to go. Okay, so let's see. It's something else put in the nest. Let me see what that was. Oh, that was you.
No, actually, I removed it. I didn't realize that you already had put it up there.
No problem. So let's adopt some other ground rules. If you have, let me think how to do this. I'm going to go through, I'm going to talk a little bit about purpose. There's a huge amount of stuff in the nest. The second thing in the nest is what's called a Twitter moment. For those of you who don't know what that is, that's basically a curated thread. It's a series of tweets that can be added to and subtracted from by the originator of it, in this case me. So I've collected a bunch of tweets that I've done on this area of purpose. One refers to the MindSkills Playbook chapter on purpose. So it's a lot of abstract talk about what purpose is and is not, and how does it differ from passion and meaning and all that, which I'll mention very briefly in a moment. So there's a lot of background. There's a description of the what game that we're going to be playing, a little more of a description of why I went that way and how it developed. But we're going to get into it pretty quickly. A few words about, so here's what we'll do. Well, let's adopt this. If there's something really pressing, because I'm probably not going to be able to watch DMs. Some of you, I know Samantha and some other people, are really adept at watching the DMs as they're doing a space. I keep my eyes glued to the screen because I want to see the talker IDs. That's my training. I just cannot look away. When somebody says George, I say instantly, Rose, Samantha, David. So let's adopt this thing. If you have something really pressing that you feel you absolutely have to say, I will let you be the judge of that. So if you want to even interrupt the proceedings because you think there is something that is really important, a point to make, something to point out, a question to ask that's burning and has to be answered before we go on, that would hurt the session if we didn't answer it, that kind of thing, absolutely request the mic. I will honor it, bring you up, and you'll ask it, and you be the judge of it. Now, I've obviously reserved the right to say, oh, we're going to get to that in a moment, or I want to defer that for a moment, but I trust your judgment. If you think there's something burning, by all means. I have, on a couple of occasions, wanted to kick the door down because I knew there was some kind of misconception going on or some terrible thing happening, and there I was in the audience. I would request the mic, and somebody would say, yeah, we're not, I see the request for the mic, but we're not taking requests right now. And I would just have to bite the side of my cheek and suck it up and, let it go the way it was going to go. So if that happens, good. Someone?
I was gonna say, so they can DM me.
Yeah, they can.
So
okay, good. You're better with DMs than I am. Okay, so purpose, and that is in the nest. I want to get my notes up. Just bear with me for a moment. I'm thinking I'm just going to wing it. The meaning of your life is the values that you are pursuing, the things that are most important to you in life that you are acting on. If you're not acting on it, it's not a value. I'd say it's an aspiration. So I'm using values in a very specific sense. So the meaning of your life is the values that you stand for, that you act on, that you embody, and in current lingo, that you manifest. Your purpose is the reason you're doing what you're doing, and it's usually got to do with your values. They're very closely related. We needn't split hairs and worry about the exact descriptions. Sometimes it's appropriate to use them interchangeably. Sometimes they mean a little different things. And your passion is the result of acting on your purpose and your meaning. In other words, it's the emotional expression of it. It's the way we experience achieving our values. So that's the the way I'm using these words. If you want more precise meanings, we can talk about it later. But for our purposes, that's more than good enough. So how do you get to it? Well, what I invented many decades ago was the what game. I used to run a workshop called the Getting What You Want workshop. Very interesting workshop. But I found people had a lot of trouble articulating what do they want. So we spend a lot of, first few sessions of the workshop figuring out what the hell do people want. Then we can talk about how you're going to get it. But you can't get it unless you know what you want. So that's the first step, obviously. And the first step is your life purpose. So I invented the what game. And I see Shazali's hand up requesting the mic. Let me just hold you off for a second and just finish this thought. So I invented the what game because I found that in questioning people, I asked it a lot of different ways. What are you most interested in? What are you curious about? What do you like to do? There's a lot of ways to ask that kind of thing to people. And what I found really was the indicator of the trailhead, the dead giveaway was, what are you excited about? See, excitement bridges the thoughts and the emotions, the cognitive and the feeling, the cognitive and the affective. So that's the bridge. So I started asking people, what are you excited about? And they would tell me, and I would stop there. And then I realized, well, wait a minute, that's like their first knee-jerk response. So I'd ask the follow-up question, okay, what excites you about that? And they'd usually get a little even more turned on, a little more excited. And they'd tell me. And pretty soon we were off to the races and, pursuing the what. The reason I call it the what game, by the way, is all of you who have kids or taught kids or been around kids know the why game. Kids just keep asking you why until you tear your hair out, until you, just can't answer anymore. And some adults are turned on by that, as I am, and as many of you are, I know. And other people are just exasperated by it. Some of my teachers went crazy and started shrieking at me because I would do that all the time. I was known as Curious George. Although I didn't have my man in the yellow hat, some of you know what I'm talking about. But so anyway, I would, when you start to follow somebody's excitement, you get eventually down, not down and deep. We get deeper into their most important values and their purpose. It gets a little abstract. The details begin to drop out, and you begin to almost hear their pure values. You'll hear this demonstrated, and we can do it with more than one person. We can do it. We'll start with Saman. We may, if Saman feels comfortable, have him do it with somebody else, and I can coach him through it. So we hit the two birds with one stone. So I get to teach him how to do it, and also get the rest of you comfortable with doing the exercise. So that's where we are. Any questions, comments? Anybody want to jump up and ask a question before I start in with Saman? I know there was somebody who had his hand up, but he seemed to have dropped off or down or what. I don't know if that was a legitimate thing or not.
Sounds good, George.
Okay. So And by the way, if and when we get into interactive mode, I don't mind. I don't mind.
May have lapsed and you're responsible for all maintenance required on your vehicle. We're offering you
I don't
one
know.
last opportunity
Sorry,
to
this is.
extend or renew your vehicle's coverage.
Oh,
To speak with a coverage specialist to go over your
It's okay.
somehow my
Again,
phone
please
started.
press 1 to speak with a coverage specialist or press
My
2
phone
in order to be added in
is
our
giving me a.
call list.
Okay. Sorry, my speaker on another phone started talking to me. I don't know why. You'll see. See, this is a very resilient medium. It does not fall apart when you hear random noises and whatever. I see Bunsen. I see Jason there. In the middle of a session like this, if we get this kind of thing, no big deal. Okay, so Saman. Oh, and Samantha's a speaker. I see. Did you, before I start with Saman, did you have any comments or questions, Samantha?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me up, and it's awesome to see Dr. Saman of ThoughtWorks, which I think from this point forward should probably be how he's addressed for his Twitter audience. The other is, just before you start, George, I think that it may be helpful for the audience to hear a short transformation story where you use this method and a really powerful outcome from when you did this, because that way people can stay on and know that when they're listening through the process, how amazing it is. Because I've worked with you a little bit on doing this, and I've seen the power of it. So I just think a short story that people can latch onto and kind of know where how the transformation is going to happen.
Interesting.
So a success story.
Thank you, Samantha. Actually, that's the little bit that I said in the beginning. I kind of was trying to say that, but it wasn't really a story. But I was just trying to say that when I have seen George demo these, it's very concise and it's very powerful. So, but I will leave that's not really a story. But I was just trying to tell people that, wow, like anyone who's this particular method of finding your purpose, I haven't seen this be so effective so quickly anywhere else, and I feel like there is books written on it. So yeah, but George, sorry,
I think it
didn't mean
might
to answer for you.
the most amazing success stories. They take a little while to tell. I'm just trying to think. I'm a little reluctant to do that. I think I'd like to start with Saman and then save the story for a little later, because he will make his own story right now. Maybe. I should say that this always works in the ultimate sense of works. It doesn't always work in the sense of getting to the ultimate purpose of the person. Sometimes it starts down the trail, which is very important. In that sense, it works. So
George, just before you start,
sure.
May I just say, I know that when we're working with people, it helps to use a name that they're most comfortable with so that they feel comfortable in the space when they're being somewhat vulnerable. And I know for Dr. M, he definitely prefers Dr. M addressing him. He is actually a physician and a doctor, and so spent a lot of time and energy earning that credential. But it's also what he is, because he's so great with people, because we all know that doctors are amazing with people. So
what would you?
So Dr. M.
Wait a minute. Oh, no. What would you like to be called?
No,
his
so
call. It's not our call. It's his call. I've done over 50,000 physicians in my focus groups. Never called them doctor. Called them by their first names only, and it disarmed them. It got them. It opened people up. I would say for informality and anonymity. We're going by first names. So what would you like to be called?
Yeah, actually, it's for the reason of just branding consistency, and I had a big debate in the beginning because people had gotten to know me here as Dr. M, which is what I'm referred to actually in real life by patients and colleagues. But just for consistency, I would say Dr. M, just because it's the account name.
Perfect.
And
okay.
Kind of like but really just only for that reason.
That's
otherwise,
perfect. Okay, so Dr. M, I'll have to retrain myself to call you that. So let's start with, and I will tell a couple of stories in a little while, but I'm really eager to start and see where it goes. and whether it even needs the stories, because he may make his own story. Okay, so Dr. Ram, I want you to go inside, take a quiet moment, and tell me, review in your own mind just 2 or 3 or 4 things that you are excited about, that get you excited. Tell me the thing that makes you most excited, but there's a caveat here. Not something that is directly sensory, not sensations, not sex, not something abstract like paintings, but something in your regular life that you are excited about, or that makes you excited.
Yes. So the top one, I mean, just very quickly, would be social audio these days. You want more than one
No,
teacher? Yeah,
the
or
one,
just one?
I want you to just review in your mind. Tell me the one that you're most in touch with the excitement about right now, or if you're in touch with all of them, which has the most excitement for you.
Yeah, definitely social audio, without a question.
Okay, listen to his voice, and through this whole thing, listen to the excitement of his voice. When it goes away, I'm going to notice it and get him back to it, and we're going to follow his excitement down the road, down the trail, whatever. So I hope you all heard what he just said about social audio, the excitement that was in his voice. Okay, so what excites you about social audio?
Talking about the other things I'm excited about. So my passions, my topics of my passion.
Okay, what excites you about talking about talking about those things? By the way, let me just point out to people, I am deliberately interrupting him. I want to keep him on the excitement. He knows the details in his own mind. I don't have to hear them. We don't have to hear them. We just need him to stay in touch with the excitement. So that's why I'm interrupting him, not being rude, and I'm doing it very deliberately. So, what excites you about talking about these things?
Makes me feel alive in a way. Gives me, it's energizing. It is.
Well, what about it? What about it makes you feel alive and energizing?
Well, yeah. I mean, getting to a new, to a new understanding. Social audio, connecting with people.
What about understanding and connecting gets you excited?
Oh, many epiphanies, in social audio, almost on a weekly basis, just an epiphany, a realization that I didn't have before,
Okay.
like the first time.
What excites you about epiphanies and realizations?
Oh, it just is advances me in some way. Do you want me to give the example I'm thinking of is the epiphany I'm thinking of is right now in my mind is the first time that you did this demo. Now you're asking what about that excites me.
Yep.
Oh yeah. So that I didn't think that there would be such a concise way with just a simple probing questions.
What excites you about simple probing questions getting to whatever you were going to say?
It allows. I mean, it's
listen to his excitement. Listen.
Yeah.
Listen, guys.
I mean,
go ahead. Keep going.
It's a revelation. Yeah, it's a revelation it's a revelation to have a tool to be able to get someone closer to their purpose just by asking them questions.
Okay, what's exciting about that kind of revelation?
Well, it allows me to do it with someone else, and that.
Okay,
who,
what's exciting about your contemplation of doing it with somebody else, of bringing them to that?
Oh, it brings joy. It's fulfilling. It's joyful. It's fulfilling.
What's exciting about bringing joy to people?
Brings joy to myself. I mean, it is, yeah. It makes me happy.
Okay. What is exciting about that? Notice how we're going to go around in circles a little bit. That's fine. I'm going to point that out. I just want to point that out. I'll talk about it later. But what's exciting about going happy?
Me, George. I think it fulfills me in a way that other things don't.
Okay, what's exciting about being fulfilled? So we've
makes me feel like I'm doing what I'm meant to be doing.
Okay, see, now we've reached an absurd question. What makes you exciting about being fulfilled? What makes you excited about doing what we are meant to be doing? That is, now if we were in a video, he'd kind of be looking at me like I'm crazy, like, why am I asking that question? Like, that's a really stupid question. Right? Yes? No?
I mean, I myself am interested in, further digging into it.
Okay, let's dig. Let's keep digging. So where were we? Repeat the last thing you said. What's exciting about being?
Makes me feel like I'm doing what I'm meant to be doing.
Okay, what's exciting about doing what you feel like you're meant to be doing?
It's feeds a hunger, I mean, it is
see, he's reached
it satisfies me deeply.
So we've essentially reached a primary thing here. I just want to go back in the transcript for a second. What excites you about doing what I'm meant to be doing? That is the essence of excitement. That is the emotion that people feel when they're doing what they meant to be doing. So let's back up a second, go back down the path, go back a little bit. It's you feel like you are doing what you're meant to be doing when you are leading people to epiphanies.
Yes, or when I'm having one myself.
Yes.
Right.
You still? Yes. Okay. I'm just giving you a chance to express yourself here. It's so. Can you sum up what the purpose is of what? Now, this could be one of your life purposes. It's not necessarily the life purpose. But so far, what have we got in your words? I don't want to be the one to put words in your mouth. You tell me. I want it to be your words.
Sure. So, I mean, at this moment, it would be actually, because we started with social audio, but it would be generally just engaging with people in a way that results in growth for both, on either end, for all parties, really.
Engaging
with people in a deeply meaningful way. That makes me grow. Engaging with people in a way that transforms me. So and them too. I hope. But if I didn't feel what I feel from the engagement in social audio, I wouldn't. No matter what their experience was, I wouldn't be excited about it. So really, in a way, I don't know what they would feel. So I suppose for me, it is engaging with people in conversation in a meaningful way that is deeply satisfying, like a core need almost. I'm thinking back at that first time that I jumped into a space, and that that very, very first thought was, this is what I'm meant to do. And I didn't know what this meant, and I still maybe have a hard time defining what that is. But there is something very basal. There's a basal need that
Keep going. But I
mhm.
want to ask people to tune into his voice, tune into his tone of
Yeah.
voice. Keep
So
going.
yes, I mean, there is conversations here that result in basically epiphanies where you kind of your mind is blown. This this has happened to me several times, and that's yes, and I've had them before in conversation. They just didn't happen to be here in audio, so that's why I think it's not so much social audio as it is that deep conversation, actually maybe even on any topic, engaging with people in a way so as to bring out maybe what was even subconscious or not conscious before, and so as to result in a new grander understanding about a topic, or like a vision that you didn't have before, or the expansion of a vision you may have had before,
So
that now, because someone else said something, all of a sudden is so much grander than it was before.
So tell me how you feel when I repeat back to you that this is all about having deep conversations and engaging people in a way to bring out even what might have been subconscious to them, to result in a new, grander understanding about a topic that they didn't even perhaps have before.
It sounds okay. Maybe it is, could be further refined by that understanding rather than being about a topic. I'm thinking back at myself.
You said growth before.
Yes, growth, or really just the understanding about this ourselves. Myself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because what's been so exciting is that now, compared to, it wasn't that long ago, compared to 5 months ago, I feel that I have learned so much more about myself than before. And the prospect that conversations with people, that deep, meaningful conversations with people can actually, I mean, what's more exciting than that? I wasn't digging into a mountain. I was just speaking with people this whole time. Yeah. So, deep, meaningful conversations where I learn about myself. I keep wanting to say
Yes.
we, but where I learn about myself, I get to know myself better.
Deep, meaningful conversations where I get to where I learn about myself. By the way, all these I have
Yes.
highlighted all of these in the transcript. So when you go back to the transcript, you can find
Yes.
these words, but I probably won't forget them anyway.
Where I learn about myself, but it does make me grow. I call it get you know myself more, but I would say that I am. Yeah, I have grown in the past 4 months in a way that, like, I wouldn't expect to happen at 34
so it's
years
the
old.
the personal growth.
Personal growth. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's stop here for a second and debrief. Tell me what you feel about this whole process. Did you learn anything? I don't want to put any question. Just let me ask the question vaguely at first. I may have some follow-up questions, but what's your reaction so far?
I think at first glance, some of those questions and some of the the answers, my answers may seem that I'm saying the same thing, but really, there is more there. So it is, so more came out as you ask, as you probe the exact same thing, like what about that excites you. So yeah, I mean, more came out by probing it further, and then even the situation of where twice my answer might be just basically a restatement of the previous answer.
Well, that's what happens.
It doesn't mean that it's stuck.
Yeah, right. That's what happens in the what game. When you begin to get the basic values, people start repeating themselves in all kinds of different ways. But it's basically the same thing. That's how you know you got there. And I know you got there. Two things. First of all, you keep repeating and circling around it, and if there was something else there, you would have mentioned that. Number one. Number two, I kept hearing your enthusiasm in your voice. If you went off into abstractions that didn't mean anything to you, the excitement would have gone out of your voice.
Right.
And what I would have done is said, well, stop. Let's go. Are you still feeling the excitement? You'd probably say no. And I'd say, okay, let's back up. And I'd repeat the previous thing that you did express some excitement about. I'd say, let's go back to that one and tell me about a situation in which you had a discussion in which you got excited. A discussion in which, tell me about it, and we'd go back to that. You'd get in, I'd say, don't tell me until you get in touch with your excitement. Stop, wait, go inside, wait, imagine the situation, let the excitement come up. Tell me, just say now when you feel the excitement. You'd say now, and I'd say, okay, what excites you about that situation? So you might go back to, well, I was a Boy Scout and around a campfire, we had this kind of discussion. Fine. Okay. What excited you about discussions around a campfire? And we'd be off and running again. So you got the thing you got to do is stay on the feeling of excitement, because that's where I found it works. And that's how you know invariably whether it's off track.
Okay.
So when you're doing it with yourself, so those of you who are listening, when you're doing it with yourself or a friend or a loved one, make sure they're staying the guiding light, the North Star, whatever analogy you want to use, the compass, the true north is excitement. If you ain't feeling the excitement, it's not there. You're just intellectualizing. You're in a bunch of floating abstractions that have nothing to do with anything, because that's the brain will give you words. The artificial intelligence will just feed you stuff that's not really, in the absence of anything, it'll just feed you words. So you got to stay with the gut. You got to stay with the excitement. Was this news to you, or was this obvious to you?
Yeah. No, actually, there was news there, because I thought that I thought social audio itself to be closer to it, but really it is. I mean, now in retrospect, it seems obvious, but the news was that this is just a means. It's
a means to what?
A means to having those interactions that is enhancing to me, and I keep wanting to say to like them too, but the thing is I can only speak to myself.
Yeah. Enhancing meaning growing.
Growing, exactly. Yeah. Transforming, growing. Growing is a better word, just in case transforming just implies
if I was working with him,
changing for the better.
Okay. Now, so if we were working together on this in a counseling session or whatever, I would say, okay, what is exciting to you about transforming? Well, let's do it very quickly. What's exciting to you about people growing and transforming? Or about you growing? You said you. What is?
Yeah.
What's exciting about you growing and transforming?
Yeah, I mean, getting out of my own way.
What's
So
exciting about
grow.
Whoa, I don't want the
Mhm.
details. What's exciting about
Yeah.
getting out of your own way?
Easier life being easier, less agony, less misery, more fun, more excitement, happier for sure.
So it's a way to get to the fun of life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Listen to his
More
voice.
fulfillment. I mean, it's been so gratifying. Not sure if this would go here, but being with people.
Yeah.
I have thought about this several times. It is, I think, strange that I have not felt lonely for a moment since January 6th, whereas occasionally I felt lonely before. So, but that's, peripheral to this conversation,
Now,
maybe.
right.
I don't know.
Now, some people would go off into a bunch of abstractions about human contact and about, what you want to do is make sure the person stays with the excitement and try to use their own words. If you noticed, most of the time, sometimes I miss, sometimes I put my own words in there, but I try as much as I can. It's very hard not to summarize what somebody else says in your own words. Try to do it in their words. Try to repeat back their words almost exactly. That's what you want to do. And because those words came to the person for a reason.
Yes. Right.
And number one. Number two, it demonstrates that I'm hearing you. I'm listening. I'm not in my own head imposing my stuff on you. I couldn't have repeated it back unless I was listening. And in fact, I may have repeated things back that you didn't hear yourself say, but you did say and recognize you did say when I repeated them back. And it's kind of interesting to me to do this with the transcript flashing in front of my screen. Because I can, when I used to do this, all the thousands of times I've done this, I have never had the transcript in front of me. So it's kind of floating in the ether, and I have to kind of rely on my own memory to repeat it back, and I don't always get it right. With the transcript, I can literally use the person's own words. So it's kind of interesting to keep Otter going when you're doing this. It's a whole new experience for me. It makes it a lot easier, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
But
Sure.
and the thing to really train yourself to do is, I've been doing social audio for 50 years, so I'm used to listening to people's voice, the timbre, the enthusiasm, the excitement, the volume, the speed. There's like 10 different variables to listen for. So train yourself to listen to the person's voice. And you can tell immediately when they get off track. Absolutely immediately. When they start droning, they say, well, I think what excites me about that is, no, you say, whoa, wait, back up. You mentioned before such and such. They say, yeah. Now you heard the yeah. You say, okay, what about that excites you? Keep them on track. Keep them on the excitement. And when you're doing this with yourself or with somebody else, keep yourself on the excitement. You won't lose it. Just back up. If you lose it, you back up and you get back in touch with it. And you continue down you've gotten off the trail and you just get back on the trail. It's not going to go away. It's not going anywhere. These are your fundamental values. These are the things that you did when you were a kid. This is really baked in the cake. I mean, you're not going to lose it. It's not like some ingredient of the cake can fall out. It's there. It's an integral part of it. So, let's see what.
Can I just say,
sure.
George, that we did look. we I mean, just this, it was very brief, George. I mean, I think it took 5 minutes maybe.
No,
I
it
don't know
felt
how
like
long it
5 minutes.
took.
It was probably about 15 minutes, I think. I
15
don't know.
minutes, okay,
I'll
yeah.
have to look because it.
But I'm trying to say it's so brief, and even for me who has seen this demo before, who probably at some level, not probably at some level, I try to talk to myself in that way, and just kind of elucidate it. Still, though, I what I would have said before it would have been, maybe I want to in some way closer to help people. But this what we arrived at, which is, let's say, engaging people in conversations in a way so as to cause self growth, or cause growth. That's a lot clearer
Yep. See,
than before the 15 minutes.
engaging people in conversations. I want to highlight that. Engaging people in conversations that cause self-growth. Yeah. So that's going to be your guiding light. Now, here's how it works. To now expand on what Samantha's request was. What's going to happen is there are going to be a lot of opportunities in spaces and in other parts of life. And you're going to match it up against, is this an instance of engaging people? I'm repeating back your words, of engaging people in conversations in a way so as to cause growth, or not. So you're going to stay away from chat sessions. You probably stay away from, you might stay away from support groups. I don't know. Sometimes they do cause growth, but sometimes they're just total bullshit. So you might stay away from that. You're going to probably stay into more focused, purposeful groups, like I do, and it's going to serve as the screen. Here's the point, and I'm going to get to what Samantha was requesting in a second. Am I on purpose or am I not on purpose? That's the net of the whole thing. What this allows you to do is say, is this on purpose or is this not on purpose? And it permeates everything. Like when I hired people, I was president of a company that had over 100 employees, and the way I hired people was I looked for what I called parallel purpose. The person didn't have to have the purposes I had personally, but they had to have purpose that paralleled my purpose and supported my purpose. That way I could support their purpose in life, they could support my purpose, and I had fanatically loyal employees. Fanatically loyal. They would have done anything for me and for each other. It was unbelievable because we talked about specifically and openly about our personal purposes and the purpose of the company. And what was our mission? What we try. That's another way of expressing purpose. Your mission. What's your life mission? That's your life purpose. So what's our mission? So it really helps in the corporate world. It helps in everything. So I'd be interviewing somebody who was bright and creative, but their purpose they had a different set of purposes. And I could respect that. I respected them as a human being. I just didn't want to hire them. So I could take somebody else who wasn't quite as bright, wasn't quite as accomplished, didn't quite have the educational credentials. But man, was that person passionate about that thing I was looking for. I'll pick passion over smarts any day of the year, or certainly passion over knowledge any time, because the knowledge will come. You can't find the passionate. You can't induce passion in people. You can teach them facts. You can't induce the passion. Go ahead, Samantha.
I think this is a good place to add part of where George and I's conversation was coming, and I think he was going to add some more to it if I don't clarify it. That I wish I would have learned this a lot earlier in life. When I was 35, I I became extremely ill, almost died, and doctors thought I would never even completely get out of my part-time wheelchair. Even doctors told me I would like go to counseling. You're never going to get better, and you need to deal with it. And I did finally get better. It took me many, many years. I worked very hard at it, defied all of their diagnoses. But what I want to say is that what I really realized is that life is extremely short, and I had expended a lot of energy and time in places that wasn't necessarily fulfilling or part of my life purpose.
Oh, I'm so
And
glad you brought that up. Yeah.
when it's put into your face, like that you literally could have just months or a few years to live, it definitely puts things into perspective.
Yes.
And one of the things that my one of my doctors said, I had an orthopedic surgeon, and he was amazing. And he said to me, Samantha, we are all given one set of tires, and your tires are already very worn. And you have to decide very carefully how you're going to use the tread that's left. And those words have never left my mind. And they are very important. And Dr. M and I were talking about this a few days ago, about how when we have an opportunity to see it, to parallel them, and we can make more money, but we can't make more time, and we can't make more time on this earth. And so where are we best aligned to fulfill ourselves, as well as where are we best aligned to serve humankind in the way that we were designed?
Let me expand on that for a second. Life is way too short to do anything other than spend it living our passions. This is an incredibly abundant world. There's so much in it, and there's so much coming at us, that it is a tragedy to be spending it. Now, there's certain things you have to do in life. You have to cook meat, you have to cook dinner, you have to, take out the dog or whatever. There's plenty of things you have to do. But there's also a huge amount of optional stuff. Huge amount. And speaking about the optional stuff, life is way too short to do anything other than act on our purposes and passions in a meaningful way, to have a meaningful life.
Yes.
It is just, if people don't think about their passions and their purposes, they just are running on automatic, and they're doing what other people taught them to do, and they're living a very unfulfilled, boring life. Life is very exciting when you're pursuing your passions. Let me tell you two quick stories. I hope they're quick, because Samantha wanted stories, and two came to mind. They're very closely related. Send me an emoji if anybody of you ever heard of Doug Henning, the magician. Most of you are not old enough probably to have. He was the most famous magician in the world just before David Copperfield. He had the largest television show in the world. He was a nobody and nothing, average magician, and he did a show for the Strategic Air Command in Alaska. And he did this magic show, and they asked him, would you stay over for public relations and do a little something for the indigenous people? So the Inuits, the Eskimos were there, and he did a little show for them. Did his 3 blockbuster tricks. Floating sphere on a silk, a thing called Snowstorm in China, where and another one, a box transposition trick, and he got no reaction. So he cut it, and he went to the chief, and he said, how come these are my strongest tricks? People flip out over these. How come nobody got no reaction? And the chief said, he said, first, he probed him specifically. He said, well, how about the floating ball? And the chief said, every day a ball of fire comes up in the east, goes across the sky, and sets in the west. That's a miracle. He said, well, how about the snowstorm in China effect, where I put the paper in the water and switched it around, pulled it out, and created a snowstorm? The chief said, every storm in real life has billions of snowflakes. Every single one of them is different. That's a miracle. And you say, well, how about the box transposition effect? It was in one box, disappeared, ended up in another box. He said, well, every year the mother walrus comes to the exact spot of her birth within a foot or two and has her calf and that spot. That is a miracle. And then he looked at Doug Henning long and hard and said, the people in your culture have lost the sense of wonder. And you need people to wander among you, like troubadours, you call them magicians, to wander among you and rekindle your sense of wonder. We don't need that, but I see how you do, and your culture does. Well, Doug went crazy. It hit him in the soul. He stopped the magic he did and suspended his activities for about a year and a half. I didn't know him, but I did know a very close personal friend was the guy who invented all his tricks, a guy by the name of Charlie Reynolds. He went to Charlie and he said, Charlie, my new purpose in life is to awaken people's sense of wonder. So I've thrown out all the tricks that you've designed for me, except 2 or 3 that are all about wonder. And I want you to design other tricks for me that only emphasize the human characteristic of wonder. That's all I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And so Charlie constructed things like, and long story short, it's too long to be short, but anyway, he went from a mediocre magician to the leading magician in the country because he had a purpose now. He was able to reject 99% of the tricks that were irrelevant to his purpose and only concentrate on his purpose. So if you went to one of his shows, you got a concentrated dose of wonder till you burst with wonder until it changed your life. And when I heard that story, I stopped all magic and did only tricks having to do with wonder. And I realized that didn't quite fulfill my purpose. And I did a lot of work with myself using the What game. What I came to in my magic is the purpose of my magic for me, not for anybody else. The purpose I do it is to reawaken people's sense of possibility. The idea that what you think is impossible, the seemingly impossible, the apparently impossible is not impossible. So if I can demonstrate to you sheer, utter, naked impossibility, your life will be changed because you'll never look at a difficult thing again as impossible if I do my job right. So my magic went through the roof, and I just became 100 times better magician by knowing my purpose and rejecting 99% of the things that bright, shiny objects, things that I might have been doing, but don't do anymore. So that's the power of purpose. I don't know. I hope that really gives you an idea of that.
Yeah, gosh, of course, George. May I say a couple of words about?
Absolutely.
Okay. Because
Samantha,
without,
anybody else would like to jump in and contribute what their reactions were, etc. Go ahead, Dr.
The reason I want to say this is because I feel like unless someone is inside me, like it could have been missed, like what just happened over that 15 minutes. And that's that, George. I mean, and anyone listening, I have thought intentionally like a great deal about what is my purpose in the past 3 months. But those 15 minutes got it a lot closer.
Wow.
In fact, at the moment, I cannot think of what would be closer than this. I would have thought it as okay, I want to help people. I want to help them grow. Something of that sort. But really, it is very specific. It is engaging in people in conversations that cause personal growth. So even though I've thought so much about, this is what blew my mind when you first demoed this, George, was that this was just a line of questioning that you can do with someone in 10-15 minutes. Gosh, if there are any coaches in the room, listen up, because this is what kind of is a revelation.
Now, it may not be
and
the last
also
word. It may not be the last word. It may be, you may
maybe
not put
it's
it the
closer
same
for
way
sure.
a month from now or a year from now as you are now, but it's a developing process. And I should point out, your purpose is developing.
Yes,
and it's
right.
going to be a little different. It's going to be changing as you grow as a human being, as different things, different opportunities. Opportunities. That's the other thing about purpose. It lets you recognize and sort out opportunities. Something comes along that to somebody, they can make $1 million at, but it's not on your purpose. I'm going to be bored silly. I could do that, and I'd make $10 million, and I'd be bored silly. There's nothing more tragic than that. I know some very rich people who are totally bored silly, and they have terrible lives, but they got their yachts and their private islands. There are other people who very modest means who are, like the proverbial pig and shit. They just having a great time. Life is wonderful. So that your purpose lets you recognize and sort out opportunities. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, it's okay. I appreciate everything that you're expressing, George. I was going to say that there is that second part is as important, right? So first we arrived at this current statement of the developing purpose, which is a process. But the second bit was, you said to kind of look at what I'm doing throughout the day, and to try to gauge. Are the things that I'm actually doing with my time and my day, are those in line with this purpose? And for some, I think that part is also really important, because it made me actually just consider the things that I'm spending time on, and some of them are very much aligned, others are not. And I have even tweeted out recently that is what you're doing currently aligned with your purpose? But what the way that you asked, it just caused me to just think about today, think about the past couple of weeks, think about the past 3 weeks. And that bit is very important. And gosh, and now you're saying that it allows you to sort out opportunities. Yeah, because it's not right, even an opportunity that may otherwise sound really amazing, is not going to fulfill you,
right,
if it doesn't fulfill that purpose.
Yep. It's tragic to see people get so-called success in things they don't care about. It's just terrible. It really is it's tragic.
Becomes a disappointment.
Yes,
Huge
really.
disappointment.
Yeah, because they work for 5 or 10 years at something, they achieve something that they thought that their parents told them they had to do, or that whatever. They get there, they ain't nothing there when they get there. So anybody else who'd like to request a microphone or speak, just jump in, request the mic. The only one who has the mic is Dr. M and Samantha at the moment. And I'd like to invite anybody else who'd like to give us their reactions. Did that trigger anything in you? Did you learn something you'd like to share with the rest of us? Do you have a different take on it? Anybody would like to jump in and or ask a question, but it's got to be a terse, focused question. Go ahead, Samantha.
Yeah, I think just a comment that sometimes it's just a realignment, perhaps, that going through an exercise like that, you realize that you just need a slight realignment.
Right.
I'm helping Yeah, I'm helping a number of speakers become TEDx speakers and professional speakers. And one of them has, you guys know him, Jim Carbor. He's got a speech about, it has to do with navigation, that if you're just off by 1 degree, you don't get to the destination that you want to be at. And it's really a great way to think of it. And while you were talking, it just reminded me that sometimes we're in the right direction. And as we go along, other people start to steer our ship, or sometimes we start to steer our ship in the way that, other people want us to, or we think we want to go. And so doing this exercise quite often could just help us realign back, a few degrees.
Exactly.
It doesn't necessarily mean that we're on the wrong path. It could just mean we just need a small realignment.
As you were talking, as you were talking, I got the picture of you're on the path, but it's dark. You can't see it. You don't know where you are. You don't know what you're doing. And all of a sudden this shines a bright spotlight on the path. And you see the path now. Okay, this is where I want to go. This is off the path. This is on the path. And
I want to add something else too, that if we're surrounded by people who see that in us, that see that we're off alignment, or see that they could help us be better aligned. I mean, there's different ways to say that, but it's the same thing, to make sure that we keep those people on the journey with us, because they're really important, because we don't see our own selves clearly. So when we surround ourselves with people who care a lot about us, and can see things in us that will help us realign, I'm going to use the word realignment, then that's a very powerful too. So sometimes it's not just like, oh, I'm out of alignment or I need to realign. It's who's with me that will continually help me realign, or and that sort of thing. And sometimes that does require a bit of give and take, right? So when people are helping us realign, we're also helping them realign, or we're helping each other achieve each other's dreams, because we can't it's not very easy to achieve your dreams on your own. Always when there's more, we achieve more together, because there's a ripple effect or multiplier effect that happens, accountability and all of that. So I think that's important too, that when you surround yourself, to know that it's a reciprocated relationship to help other people align or realign, and helping each other get there, but also just recognizing that it's not just about people always helping us, it's also about helping other people. And while I'm just speaking here, for any of you who are interested, I pinned in the nest a couple of articles I written quite some time ago, but they seemed really relevant. It's interesting, George's exercise that he does with the what is very similar to what I used to do with young adults. And the conversation I often had with them is, what are your values? What is it that you want to achieve? And they would tell me, and then I'd be like, well, what are you doing about it now? Well, they'd be doing nothing about it. I'm like, how much Netflix do you watch, or whatever? And I'd be like, well, that's actually, that's an aspiration, not a value, if you're doing nothing about it. So that's one thing. But the articles I talk about at the top, I thought about the peekaboo game with children and the Epiphanies, because when Dr. M was talking, it reminded me a lot of the joy of that peekaboo game what wasn't there is just instantly revealed. It was there all along. We just never saw it. We have new eyes. And so that cloud or the hands over our eyes is completely taken away. And the joy and happiness that it brings in the moment, and the improvement and the growth, and that happens with it. So I did write an article about it, just talking about the peekaboo. And it's interesting, that article that I wrote was actually featured in a writing community, like a couple of semesters, because they thought it was a really good way to show what happens when you write or journal or talk, or have deep conversations. That peekaboo, it's like the peekaboo game all over.
When you're talking about it, it sounded to me, well, I get the alignment thing. The image I got was focus versus blurry. You're on a blurry path. You don't know. You kind of know where you are, but not quite. And all of a sudden, when you get more in touch with your purpose, things come so into focus. The clarity, the colors, it all starts popping.
You actually reminded me of photography,
with
George.
Right, with the camera.
I know that Dr. M and you have done some photography, and it's exactly that. When you're on manual mode and you're trying to adjust the lens of a SLR camera, then what happens is, as soon as it's in focus, and if you have a high quality lens, boom, the colors pop and
Pop,
everything is
right.
perfect, and you get so excited because you're like, boom, I got it. So it's very, very similar. But sometimes when you're learning the camera system, like when I first learned SLRs, I had no idea how to focus the lens perfectly. What I thought was in focus or close to wasn't actually. And when a professional or a friend or another photographer came over, adjust this, and then boom, there was the clarity. And so that's what I was talking about by often, especially when we're starting out. But even you and I, George, you're a professional at this, and you and I will talk and you'll be like, boom, I just got more clarity. And he's a professional simply because we sharpen each other and we help bring each other clarity.
Right.
And then the other article before I jump off here that I put on there was just about that quote that I told you earlier about with my doctor when he said, you have one set of tires, so think carefully how you want to use the tread that's left. I mean, he was speaking to someone who maybe didn't have a lot of time left, but it's a very, very good way to put your life into perspective. And I actually needed to hear today's conversation again too about realigning or even bringing people in on board to help me with areas
Did this at all help you with your purpose?
I think I always knew it, but sometimes I put other people's purposes before my own. And I really enjoy doing it too. So I really love it. I just have to remember to keep my own in focus while I'm also looking. So one of my giftings is kind of what you're doing, is helping people gain clarity, helping people focus, or seeing things they don't see. And I absolutely love helping them with it. And so sometimes that often aligns with who I am and my purpose, but I also have my own. I have a few other things beyond that, I guess. And I have different lenses. I'm a photographer, so I might have a zoom lens on one day and a macro lens the other day, and I enjoy them for different purposes. So, thank you very much, George.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I was thinking about my days as a photographer when I was in college. I learned how to 4x5 graphic. The picture, it was $5 a shot in those days. And I just did a inflation analysis. It would be $50 a shot today. Imagine every time you took a picture, it was $50. You really learned how to do. You really learned photography. You learned exposure. You really figured out to use this. This is something I really want to be doing. But anyway, anybody else would like to jump in and join us, ask a question, make a comment, share their experience with this whole thing. Love to hear it. I have no idea.
Can I just say one more thing, George, before I turn over the mic? That if you are struggling with your own purpose or your clarity, it's often helpful to help other people with their focus and clarity, because just like what Dr. M was saying, the epiphanies and self-growth he had by simply having deep conversations with others, it really helps you. And the other day I tweeted this. I said, one of the greatest gifts you can give to someone is their own self-discovery. However, it's also a gift to you because we often gain a lot of revelations about our own self, things that were subconscious or not quite revealed about our own selves or the way we see the world, until we help other people with it. So if you're trying to gain clarity in the room, try helping someone else, and you'll be shocked at what you learn about yourself while helping someone else, which will be very satisfying.
And also self-discovery usually means discovering all your flaws and difficulties and deficiencies. And I think the most important self-discovery is, what's your meaning, purpose, and passion? What are your strengths? What excites you? What are your inclinations? I love the phrase Richard Feynman used to use, the great theoretical physicist. He was so down to earth. He'd say, what's really important is, what do you get a kick out of? That's self-discovery. What do you get a kick out of?
Right.
People don't know. They can't tell you that. All these intellectual people who are so smart and they have 2 PhDs and an MD and a whatever. You say, what do you get a kick out of? They look at you like you came down from Mars. What does that have to do with anything? Because they're so out of touch with their own feelings, their own, what gratifies them, that they've been on automatic for 10 or 20 or 50 years. So self-discovery this is really important. Discover the great things about yourself that have been driven underground. There's an article in the MindSkills playbook. you can find that in my profile. On your there's a lot of articles on there, so I'll leave it at that. But self-discovery is really the article I was thinking of is the title is something like the best parts, your best parts are hidden and you don't even know it. And it's about discovering your best parts that have been hidden because they were punished when you were a kid. It wasn't safe to be that bubbly, enthusiastic, funny, humorous, playful person. So you had to get serious. You had to grow up. And so you suppressed all these wonderful things about yourselves, and had to accentuate the terrible things. And it's so self-discovery is not just discovering these deep, dark, horrible things. The really important thing is discover what's best about yourself. And the best things about you are your values, are your purpose, are the things that are important to you. Not just the things that you were told by the society that are important. Climate change, the climate, all the racism issues, the gender issues. I'm not saying those are unimportant, but don't say they're important because other people say they're important. Say they're important because you genuinely believe they are important, and you can tell me why they're important, and they excite you to do something about. Not because just the society will think well of you if you express a whole bunch of crap about climate change or whatever it is. It's got to come from you, not them. That your purpose comes from you, and it comes from probably deep within your childhood in ways we don't fully understand. Someday maybe we'll understand it a lot better. But we kind of know. We kind of get it. But they're there, and they are screaming to get let out. No, now. Had is something you wanted to say, I think.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Keep it brief and focused. Go ahead.
I'll keep it brief. Dr. M, first of all, thank you for going through the exercise with George. For just opening yourself up there and just going with the flow. It almost reminded me of the 5 whys. Keep repeating why. There was looking for an essence, looking for a seed. And George, I noticed, the word excite. We keep using the word excite. It's a powerful word, and that I found, I could almost hear Dr. M going, okay, there's an answer, but does it excite me? So you could hear that in his head almost,
exactly.
Which is powerful.
Exactly.
And I also noticed, George, on your side, that you had some clues, what Dr. M was trying to say, or you may have interpreted what he was trying to say, but you didn't interfere with the process. You wanted the process to play out. So I'm wondering, could you explain that a bit more?
I'm so glad you asked that.
What's the power in someone discovering that for themselves rather than the expert telling you, hey, this is what you're saying? Thank you.
Oh, okay, that's great. What is it? A Scottish accent?
Close enough. I'm over there. I'm Irish originally, but I moved between Europe and the USA.
I hope I didn't insult you. I'm sorry. I didn't.
It's close enough. No, that's good.
Okay, I love it. I love it. That was a very astute question, because that is something you really have. And I want to bring this up. If you do this with somebody else, or when you do it with, let's be optimistic. When you do this with somebody else, don't put your own stuff in it. You really have to resist. Practically have to bite your tongue to get you something. Don't give your interpretation. Well, it sounds to me like no. It's got to come from them. It's got to come from their excitement. You want it their words. So it takes some training. You've got to literally resist doing it. It's the same thing with psychotherapy. When you're learning psychotherapy, you got to resist. You got to bring the patient to the realization. You can't just say, okay, here's what's going on. Here's what it looks like to me. and then you give your interpretation. And they may get all excited, and it may sound good to them, but it doesn't work. But by the time they get out the door, they've forgotten it if it didn't come from them. So you really have to resist. There's a very astute observation you made, that you have to resist not putting your words. Sometimes I'll catch myself. I use my word, then I said no, and I repeat their word. Still do it. Of course, I don't do this exercise a great deal. If I did this every day with people, it becomes second nature. But try doing this with some people, and it may not. You may have to circle around or start with a different thing that excites them. And if you do it with yourself or with somebody else, do it with several different things that excite you. Start with different places. It's very interesting. It's fascinating. You will probably keep ending up in the same place, which is utterly fascinating. And of course, confirmation that you're on the right track. Although you may end up in 2 or 3 different places, and people do. Some people have 2 or 3 different purposes in life. It's kind of rare, but there are a significant number of people who do.
Hey, George, you just helped me with an epiphany just now, actually, because when you went through the exercise, I was like, oh, dang, I need a serious realignment, not just like a couple of degrees, but a lot. And then as we were talking, I'm like, here's something I'm doing and I really enjoy. And I use the word enjoy, not excites. And then I was like, why do I enjoy it? Does it excite me? And then I was like, oh, that's right. I love, like, I'm gonna use the word excite. It excites me to connect people when that spark happens. It excites me to help that spark go, and then they just take it and go on fire from there. And so then I was like, oh, I am in alignment. I just lost, it was just clouded for me. It was clouded, and now I'm re-excited about something I'm already doing, but I was starting to get a little bit like thick in the weeds about, and I just like literally took that lens from the camera and went, yes, actually what I love about it is the connecting part. And so what excites me. So anyway, I just want to tell you, gave me an epiphany about something.
Thank you. The difference between enjoy and excite. Enjoy is a little more passive.
Yes.
It's some kind of something that happens to you. Excite is, and it's kind of a misnomer intentionally. It doesn't excite you. You excite yourself about it.
Yes.
Something else doesn't. Nothing excites. Things don't. It's like he makes me angry. No, he doesn't. You make yourself angry as a result of what he did. So it's not that it causes you enjoyment. No, you react with enjoyment to it. But that's kind of clumsy and hard to say, and a bit of a splitting of hairs. So I just use the vernacular.
George, there is something, though, with people with like an Italian or Romantic language that could be a barrier when using this exercise and using the word excited, because in Spanish, to say you're excited actually is a little different. It means there's a sexual connotation to it.
Yeah.
They're more like unlikely to use the word so comfortably. And so I just wanted to put that out there, because it actually happened to me when I was learning Spanish in front of a very young man. I said, I'm excited to be here with you. And he literally turned about 50 shades of red.
Right.
And I was like, what did I say? And then he was like, he didn't know any English, and he was like doing hand signals. And I was like horrified.
I don't speak Spanish, but the word embarrassed means pregnant.
Well, and then I said, I'm so embarrassed. Really, and then he started laughing even more because then I literally said I'm pregnant on top of it. So anyway, I just wanted to put that out there. So for any of you who are working with people who English isn't their first language, and maybe their first language is Spanish, explaining what the word excited means in English, and that it's safe to use that word in English, or use a different one.
Yeah, maybe there's a Spanish equivalent. I don't know enough
Yeah.
about.
Anyway, I just
I
want to
don't
throw
know.
it out there that
Thanks.
I have a
will
little bit of trouble when you use the word because of this experience that's embedded in my mind.
next. That's funny. Next Spanish person I get to talk with about this, I'll ask them about the
Maybe,
subtleties of that
George,
word.
it may even be more effective if liking something, enjoying something is a bit passive, exciting is a more engaging. Then if you have the other interpretation of exciting, maybe it adds more fuel to it. I don't know.
Maybe could that? Yeah, it could have a what's called a paradoxical effect. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, quite possible. So anybody else have anything that they want to comment on, or I'd like to. I think we'll end it here. I think this might. I think this is really. I have to review it, but I think there's going to be a. We'll make We'll make this an audio chapter in the MindSkills playbook. You know,
Yeah.
I'll put the link to the Otter thing and to wherever else I put it, or we could put it on YouTube. Yeah, YouTube. You can do audio on YouTube, audio
Yes.
only, and so that'll be a repository. The Otter link will be, of course, transcript as well. I think YouTube does transcript too, but I think you may have to play it while you're getting the transcript. This one you can read through, so you could skip right to the exercise or right to our discussion or where however you want to. Also, Otter is really interesting because there's a new feature on there. Whenever I highlight something, it goes into the right column with a little excerpt of it, and you can click on it and get to it in the transcript. So you can kind of have a running mini transcript of what was important.
You can also export just the highlighted text so that you can bring it into a journal and unpack it some more.
Right. Exactly. It's really a marvelous tool. And I hope it survives and thrives. And the people there are fantastic. So those of you who are not using it, Otter, OTTEI, I think it's otter.ai. Simon Lau is the guy who is on Spaces a lot. Wonderful guy. And they're incredibly responsive to suggestions and all kinds of things. So I'm tired. I think this was quite a good success. We can do it again. There's no reason why we can't do this another 20 times with different people. Make it a regular thing. I really want the world to know how to do this exercise. If people in the world were running around knowing how to help each other find their purpose, I think we'd have a lot better world, certainly a more passionate world.
Yeah. George, I wanted to say that basically that, can we not lose sight of what it is, because it takes very little time. And I have seen you do it with other people. I have tried to self-talk myself into it. And so I'm going to be a bit super honest here and say that before the session, just my guess was that I'm not sure if I'm going to get anything new from this, but I want everyone else to kind of see the demo with me. But I did get, as we talked about, it did get me to a closer place of what it is at the moment, that purpose. So yeah, gosh, I mean,
that's
for
absolutely
people, it's empowering,
thrilling
George.
to me.
It's
absolutely thrilling to me because unleashing you just a little more is just a thrilling idea to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
You and
and
Samantha,
I didn't expect it.
The people who are accomplished in their own right and if I could potentiate them, 1 or 2 or 10% more, that is such a thrilling thing. It's unleashing so much power into the world.
Yes,
it's just a thrilling thing to have happen. So I mean, I think I have a few dozen things like this. But if the world got more on purpose, it would be such a more enjoyable, people would be enjoying life so much more.
Yeah, they'll be happier.
They'll be happier. There'll be so much less stress, and on and on and on and on. There's nothing as sad as seeing somebody who's, off purpose, suppressed their purpose, who's dull and boring. Because underneath there's a live person in there.
Right.
You know, it doesn't take much to unleash it. All they need is a feeling of safety, a place they can do it, and a way to do it, a little encouragement.
Yes.
Boom! It starts coming out. It's an amazing. It's what I liked when I was a psychotherapist, but I didn't like the pathology. I don't like the just personally. I mean, I tremendously admire them. My wife's a psychotherapist, but it wasn't for me. I'm more into the growth and coaching aspects of things than the curing of deficiencies. I don't know what to call you. No, now.
Yeah.
How do I ordinarily I would
KNN.
What the hell's your name?
KNN.
KNN.
It doesn't
okay.
roll
Whatever
off the
you.
tongue, does.
No.
Going back to Dr. M's point is, and this question I had myself, how to do self-inquiry. It doesn't seem. I think you need someone to play tennis with, or George, is there a way that you do this through journaling? You might,
Yeah, you could do it.
Go at it a few days in a row and look at what you wrote and go, oh, I've changed my mind today. Like, have you any suggestions for how people can?
You laid it out. You just did it. I think the tool is not important. I use Obsidian tool for thought, but it doesn't really matter. You could do a paper and pencil. I wouldn't advise chisel and marble. Don't write it in stone, but something that can be erased. But I wouldn't erase it. I would be able to look. I would want to look back at the evolution of it. But start asking you to put up at the top of the head. Why don't at the top of the page or screen? Such and such excites me. Being on a small sailboat excites me. What excites you about that? Well, it's the feeling of the sheet in my hand. What is exciting about that? And then eventually you're going to get to all kinds of things about freedom and control and controlling large forces with small effort. And just start writing that stuff down and you'll kind of be amazed at it. Take it seriously. It's your subconscious talking to you. Listen. So, okay.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome. And thank you all for attending. And we'll put it in the MindSkills playbook and take it from here.
Hey, everyone. Let's thank George and Dr.
Feedback.
M here by throwing up a ton of emojis. Thank them, clapping. Yeah, let's thank them very much for such a great exercise and show. If you can. Awesome.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
And if any of you doing this work on yourself, on your kids, on your spouse, on your friends, and you have some success with it or something we can learn from it, by all means, please share it with them, with us, with me. Spread the word, help people do this, and make the world a better place. Thanks again, everybody. Good night.
Thank you, George. Good night. Bye-bye.
Leave it on for a second so you can grab. I would encourage you to grab the second thing out of the nest, which is the moment that has the other ones, and read the article. Thanks again. Good night.
Bye, George. Thank you. Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye-bye.